Hi everybody, this is Dan Stolbarger. Welcome to this week's KFIR Middle East Update. Lots to cover this week, some things to celebrate, and we kind of want to take a deeper view on some things. But before that, just a reminder, get the PDF PowerPoint, holygroundexplorations.com. This really accompanies this presentation. There's always more information, photos, etc. in the PDF. So check that out, get that. And now let's take a look at our news bites. Israel, COVID, a mess. That's all I can say. Netanyahu says that drastic measures are now truly just unavoidable. High Holy Day starts tomorrow evening, and Israel's going to try to hunker down, get through this, hopefully see a dramatic decline in COVID. Something that doesn't surprise me, but is a bit shocking, is there was a new study released today by the Claims Conference reveals that 10% of young adults in America believe that the Jews actually caused the Holocaust. And two-thirds of young Americans today, young adults, do not know that 6 million Jews were killed in the Holocaust. Well, let's continue on. I'll let that one just sort of drop. The Abrahamic Accords, we rejoice what's taken place, and Trump gave us sort of an inkling that there were more to come. He actually says that there's 7 to 9 countries that are expected to make peace with Israel, and one of them being Saudi Arabia. Only time will tell, but we're looking at this, and for the Palestinians, they realize Trump gave them 4 years. You better think about this. But a lot of their past allies are now supporters of Israel. Normalization, Abrahamic Accord. Amazing days in which we're living. Of course, the Palestinian mood to all of this, quote, this is from a Saudi writer, Amal Abid Aziz, and he writes, times change, everything has changed. Of course, except for the Palestinian mood that rejects anything and everything. The Palestinians, this awful quip, never miss an opportunity to miss an opportunity. That's unfortunate, but we'll have to see how these dominoes fall. And then, again, this COVID thing, it's the question, this is called the Great Reset. Are we being conditioned for the rise of the man of lawlessness, the Antichrist? World Health Organization Director General Dr. Tedros, I can't even pronounce his last name, you'll see it in the PDF, has declared that finding a vaccine for COVID-19 is not the final goal. The final goal, the ultimate aim, is the reordering of society. And so we have this whole globalist agenda that's unfolding these days right before our very eyes. Well, we mentioned the celebration not only with the United Arab Emirates, Bahrain has established full diplomatic relations with Israel. Trump again highlighted that. It's made it the second Gulf country to do so in less than a month. Trump's word, another historic breakthrough. Our two great friends, Israel and the Kingdom of Bahrain, has agreed to a peace deal, and there will be much more, or many more, to come. In the next article, we read about Oman welcomes Bahrain's decision to normalize relationships with Israel and hopes it will contribute to the Israeli-Palestinian peace. Oman keeps on by saying we need a new strategic path taken by Arab countries, and once again, they're next in line for this Abrahamic Accord normalization. In the midst of all this, the European Union is sort of sitting on the sidelines, issuing a statement supporting the peace agreements between Israel and its Arab neighbors. But the EU statement focused on the, quote, negotiated and viable two-state solution, built upon the internationally agreed parameters, is a clear reference to the Palestinians' demands. Now, the reason for the lack of excitement for the EU is it kind of remains unclear. However, many member states have remained hostile just due to Trump, and for the most part, their blind support of the Palestinians in their conflict with Israel. The Palestinians, as you know, for their part, has condemned in no uncertain terms the peace agreements, talking about whether it's the United Arab Emirates or Bahrain, or all of these that are lining up is just being nothing more than a knife in the back of the Palestinian cause. Even more than that, kind of a specific response by the Palestinian Authority Prime Minister, Mohammed Shaktaya. He's called on Arab states to boycott the event that happened on Tuesday, called it, a Black Day, that will be added to the Palestinians' calendar of pain. He speaks of Fatah and Hamas terror groups being united. They will stage protests against these deals. And you probably know this by now, that more than a dozen rockets were fired at the exact moment of the signing that was taking place in the White House. 6 Israelis were wounded, including a father of 15 that was handing out food to the needy. And we know that the IDF did retaliate. We haven't been given all the details, but from my understanding, it was a massive retaliation of these rockets that were fired during the peace accord signing. New subject. Right here in the old USA, our First Amendment rights being completely violated once again. The city of Seattle shut down a local park in advance of a massive gathering of believers, of Christians, worshipers. They were banned from the park, but not Antifa and not Black Lives Matter, just Christians. The organizers could have completely canceled the event, but instead, they decided to take it to the streets and rebrand it as a worship protest. Thousands of people came out in the streets singing and worshiping Jesus. It's just unfortunate that we see this dichotomy taking place, allowing massive violent protests and allowing the freedom to have the rioting and looting taking place, while the church, believers wanting a peaceful protest of worship, are being denied their constitutional rights. Don't call evil good and good evil. Or should we just look at it as the upside down kingdom that we're living in these days? Well, back to the Middle East, Qatar, Hamas. This is noteworthy. I'm not sure you understand how much money Qatar gives to Hamas on a monthly basis, but this is just out. Things have changed, and the leader of Qatar is saying we can't keep doing things the old way. He has instructed his aides to inform the Hamas that the continual flow of Qatari cash to the Gaza Strip's impoverished population was no longer guaranteed. The latest transfer of $30 million, this is a one-off. Don't expect it to continue. This terrorist group, Hamas, has been given a warning. His quote, "The Americans and Israelis are not kidding around this time, And he's added for good measure, it doesn't seem as if Trump's going to lose this political election. And so we're cutting it off. There's a new sheriff, there's a new way, and we're seeing this happen right before our very eyes. Now, again, back to the U.S., Harvard University. Figure it out. Harvard recently announced 4 new fellows for their school's Future of Diplomacy project, one of them being Saoub Erekat, the chief Palestinian negotiator, the head of the negotiation departments of the Palestinian Liberation Organization, is going to join the school for the academic year of 2021. Keep in mind, this is the architect of the infamous $400 million a year Martyrs Fund. This is a Palestinian government program that pays salaries to terrorists, in part by using foreign aid money from tax dollars. The fact that Harvard has chosen this guy to be a faculty member, no doubt they think his expertise in this area is going to be advantageous, but it will do nothing but become a deliberate decision to sway Harvard students against Israel, right here in our own backyard. Finally, one last picture. As I mentioned before, a day of celebration, the dawn of a new Middle East is taking place right before our very eyes. That's it for this week's Middle East update. Again, Rosh Hashanah begins tomorrow evening. We encourage you to go to our website, sign on, become a member of our KFIR global community. We are going to have a short YouTube on a daily basis through Rosh Hashanah. And again, that's Rosh Hashanah, Feast of Trumpets, the 10 days of awe concluding on Yom Kippur. We hope that you'll join us. So God bless and Shana Tova. Shalom.